infinity
and
beyond.
Oh, yours was funnier. I said beyond, which isn't really even a joke.
This is the Macabre Podcast Universe. We are here today and every Friday to prove to people when they say sequels are never better than the originals, to prove them wrong.
Yeah, and my name is Micah McCaw.
I'm Jordan McCaw.
I was born in the year of 1993.
I was born in the year of 1994.
And I grew up and I watched this movie called Toy Story.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw it,
A story just of toys.
Toys, kind of a meta take, but still very heartfelt. And when I grew up, I just always thought, but what was the movie that Andy watched that made him like Buzz?
Micah, I can't even tell you how many the sleepless nights I had as a kid thinking about it.
Especially because Toy Story 1 absolutely references the fact that it's a movie that he watched.
And I just couldn't get over what was the movie? What happened to Buzz?
Yeah, and then also I couldn't. I just stayed awake thinking to myself, in Toy Story 2, when Zurg says he's his father, and then also there's the video game that shows Zurg and stuff like that. Okay, that must be based on that movie that was referenced in 1 that's totally referenced. And I just have always dreamed of the day when all of that is realized and totally is cohesive and absolutely makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are.
We got it, Micah.
In
our lifetime, we got that movie.
So, if you didn't know, we covered Toy Story years ago. And we love all 4 of those movies. I think they're all perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And then they announced this movie. And so we had to cover it. And of course, if you're listening in real time, the movie came out 3 weekends ago. But we got COVID.
Yeah.
Our second round ago with it during all of this pandemic. We're fine. We're recovered now. Nothing scary for us, but it just sucked. And a lot of
couldn't see the
aches.
movie right when it came out.
Yeah, and then we couldn't see it the next weekend.
And who's to say that we had an evening where we could have seen it, but we saw Black Phone instead?
Well, yeah, but but we couldn't have made the release time of that Friday.
Yeah. And we wanted to see Black Phone instead.
We were finally able to go to the theaters again, and it was a Thursday night, and we had an episode coming out on Friday. We couldn't go see Lightyear, come home, record an episode, get it out, and edit it.
And we simply just would have rather seen Black Phone.
And by the way, folks, Black Phone is so good.
It's really good.
It actually is like my 3rd or 4th favorite movie of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I put it under Everything Everywhere All at Once and RRR. It's number 3 for me of the entire year.
Is RRR number 1?
RRR is number 1.
It has to be.
I can't deny it.
Yeah.
I can't deny it. It's just too good. But yeah, the Black Phone, because I had really high expectations going into it.
Yeah.
I like Scott Derrickson a lot. I like Joe Hill, the writer of the short story.
Hawke?
I love Ethan Hawke. But I kind of figured that it'd be one of those movies where I was like, yeah, Black Phone's really, like, this one's a really good horror movie. It's really good. But I have to admit, folks, I don't want to talk it up too much. But when I left the theater, I was like, I don't have a single qualm with that movie. I was totally enveloped in the story. It was scary. It was dreadful.
Continues to prove that we are completely inundated with good child actors, especially because these kids were like 13, which is an awkward age.
Yeah.
And there were a couple like okay things with some of the kid actors, but nothing that was like unwatchable or annoying really. It was like, I don't know, their bodies are changing literally every second. Things are weird.
And this may be a reputation staker, but for me it was a perfect movie. And it's not
a perfect movie to me, but it's a darn good movie. I loved it.
I would like to see it again. And who knows if, because sometimes you just get caught up in the moment.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, oh, this is like top 5 favorite horror movies for me, like right off the bat.
And funny story about it is I listened to the short story right leading up to the movie because I wanted to. And I was convinced that I did not get the full story or when the story ended, I said to Micah, that was really short. They have a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah.
And then watch the movie. Of course, there's a lot of different things.
Right.
And that's great.
Uh-huh.
That's won't get into that too much, but it was just like, that did happen in the short story. That did happen. They really expounded on that, which is cool, but it provided closure that I didn't get from the short story. And then we found it, and I'm reading through it again. And I think I just, my brain shut off for a couple pages while listening to it, because it's like, oh no, I remember all of this.
Yeah.
But why didn't it feel like a complete movie or a short story?
I guess you just missed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great movie. And also for you people that are a little less horror inclined, I do think it's a scary movie, but it's a different kind of scary. Mm-hmm. It's more dreadful, which to me is actually a little bit worse. But to some people, maybe not so much. Like I think people who are not as horror inclined could probably handle the movie. Unless you have like a childhood trauma or something, because it does play up a lot of that stuff.
But yeah, there's not like jump scares or anything.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so good. But so we were sick and all that, and then it was like, what are we gonna do? We got to see this movie. And by now, what's interesting is when we cover new releases, we don't usually know how well the movie is doing.
Yeah.
But since it's been out for a couple of weeks, we know that Lightyear is a monumental disaster.
Yeah.
It has not made its production budget back in the 3 weeks it's been out.
That's real bad.
There's several like, I don't want to call them one of them's a controversy, but there's several just like things that I think are really hurting this movie.
And the movie was never clear from the beginning what was happening, because I remember the first trailer that came out.
Yeah.
They didn't really tell you what was happening in a trailer way.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, it's like, but wait, how does this work? I don't get what's happening. He's a toy, but is he a real person?
Yeah, and so, yes, and we have to talk about this, because there was part of me that was like, are we just so inundated with connections and pop culture that we can't just like enjoy kind of a random movie?
Yeah.
But I think I have not seen anyone who is not confused or making fun of the premise of this movie. So I think it is, across the board, they did a bad job telling us what this was.
Yeah.
Because when this was announced, they released the trailer, and there's this really famous tweet that Chris Evans tweeted. He posted the trailer, and then I think people were like, what is this? They're tweeting, and he responds to himself, and he says, and just to be clear, this isn't Buzz Lightyear the toy. This is the origin story of the human Buzz Lightyear that the toy is based on.
Huh?
Which
also, calm down, Mr. Evans.
I know. And so I think when I saw that, I was like, so my brain, until a month ago, I thought this movie was, they were saying that in Andy's world, there was a Buzz Lightyear that was a human person like Buzz Aldrin or something like that, who went to the moon.
No, this is just another planet.
Went to space, and that actually happened in his reality.
If that's true, that's so confusing to me, because so they live in a futuristic society.
Yeah.
Because as we know with Toy Story, it's just the movie takes place in 1993.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a normal suburban movie,
And so
that doesn't work.
No. So this whole time, I mean, for years since they've announced this, that's what I thought this movie was about. And I was just like, they've got 4 10 out of 10 movies. I trust Pixar. And then I watched this little short that was on Disney Plus, like the weekend before, that was kind of like the making of Lightyear. I stopped it when it started explaining the entire plot of Lightyear. But before that, it shows director Angus McLean, and he's saying, when I was a kid, or not a kid, but because he was an adult, but when Toy Story came out, I just kept thinking, what was the movie that Andy watched that made him love Buzz? Which, we joked about it at the beginning, Toy Story never makes a reference to this being a movie.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how he had it stuck in his brain. I mean, honestly, I think he just made that up
I think
because
it's a marketing point.
Pixar needed another hit. That's what I think it is, frankly.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I've just been thinking about that and thinking about that like ever since Toy Story 1. It's like,
well, you know what? Actually, that is funny because we know for a fact that Woody is based on a TV show.
yeah.
That was clear. How come there's no Woody movie? How come we had to make a Buzz movie and make it all up when we have source material on the TV
Yeah.
show? And how come instead
Although
of
they
doing...
showed the TV show and it's puppets, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a good point. But do you know what I mean?
Oh, I know what you're saying.
It's more. I said that would still be just as stupid.
Yeah,
but it makes more sense.
Well, and there was an old Buzz Lightyear like direct to video Buzz Lightyear Star Command movie.
Oh, that sounds familiar. I think I've seen that.
And I think it's not a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
But I think the premise is like, I think it's just a story that's Buzz, and I think there's an assumption. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But
What's
I think
it called? Star Command?
Yeah. I think there's just an assumption that it's just like a TV show based on that toy that's a big hit in Andy's world, you know?
Yeah.
Because to me, it always just felt like Buzz was this creation like Cabbage Patch Kids or something like that, where it's just like, this was just a hit and everybody liked this. It wasn't based on something.
Yeah.
So the premise was confusing from the get-go. And then they're kind of backtracking. And I honestly believe, I don't know, maybe we could find quotes from before Chris Evans' tweet, but I honestly believe that them saying that this is an Andy movie is like a late in the game thing that they added.
Yeah.
I think they were already filming the movie, animating it, doing all that when they decided, it doesn't really, how does this connect? Mm-hmm. And they're probably seeing people's reaction online like, what?
And also, in 1993, when Toy Story comes out, and Andy looks so bad because it's one of the first animated in this way's movies, and you're telling
95,
me...
95.
And you're telling me that this is the movie he sees? What? How? Huh?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, I think it would be live action to him.
Oh, I actually did think that during the movie. I did think that. Still, though, wild stuff.
But yeah, so I'm holding out hope because I don't want there to be a Toy Story mark on them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense. And then when this movie opens, and we're not going to do a spoiler alert on this episode. We're just going to talk about this movie because it's not worth seeing in theaters. It opens and it just says like in 1995, Andy went and saw a movie and it became his favorite movie.
This is that movie.
This is that movie. And I was like, how come every trailer for Lightyear did not open with that? Mm-hmm. Because if that happened, I honestly believe they would have had at least $100 million more in the bank by now. Yeah. Because I honestly think the concept of this movie is so unclear that most people are just like, I don't know what this is, and I don't care to figure it out. I just want to see Top Gun again.
Yeah.
I think that's, as simply put, I think they left at least 10% of what they would have made by not opening every trailer with, this is that movie that Andy saw.
And it sucks that we get a trailer before this movie, Strange World.
Oh, yeah.
It sucks. It doesn't suck, but it's a bummer because it's a Disney Studios movie.
Yeah.
And this movie it was one of the best trailers I've seen in a long time.
It was. We were like hitting each other in the theater like, this looks so good.
And then it's like, but we got to watch Lightyear right now.
Yeah.
That's not good.
That's not good. But yeah, so all of that I think adds up to this, like people just not wanting to go see this. Then I think there's something on top of that. And that's the Tim Allen of it all.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I want to clear up is there's kind of Tim Allen is he's got that show Last Man Standing. I think it's over now.
Yeah.
But it's a very conservative show.
Is that a sitcom?
Yes.
Okay.
And so it's very much like, I think the concept is like, there's no more men around anymore.
Yeah.
So it's this very like conservative idea and stuff like that. And so a lot of conservatives, and I'm sure just Fox News, are like, wow, Disney, Tim Allen's not woke enough to be cast in this movie, so they cast someone else.
Yeah.
I just want to clear up that is not the case.
Yeah.
The director in Pixar said they never considered Tim Allen, which
Weird.
doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
But they were like, they want it to be different. But
wrong.
Sometimes toys are voiced by the same person in our world.
Yeah. So you're telling me, but you know how like sometimes, because we have a nephew who's obsessed with cars.
Yeah.
And he has so many character cars that talk. And yes, it is like Owen Wilson, Larry the Cable Guy. But like there are some things where it's obviously not the actor.
Right.
And so are you telling me that Tim Allen is the knockoff toy voice over artist?
Of the boring Chris Evans
of the
voiceover.
boring Chris Evans?
Yeah. Yeah. And
funny.
What's interesting though is so Pixar said that, but Tim Allen said that they did talk to him about doing it, and he said he had no interest in doing it.
Good for him.
Because, and so he said this. He said, this is like recently, an interview. He said, it's a wonderful story. It just doesn't seem to have any connection to the toy, and it's a little, I don't know, it just has no relationship to Buzz. It's just no connection. I wish there was a better connection.
You said no one could have said it better, Tim.
And then he said, we talked about this many years ago. It came up in one of the sessions, and I said, what a fun movie that would be. However, he changed his mind, and the actor explained, this is a whole new team that really had nothing to do with the first movie. It's Tom Hanks and I. There's really no Toy Stories Buzz without Woody.
I agree 100%.
So it sounds like they did actually talk to him. And
maybe like years and years and years ago.
Yeah, probably when they're first coming up with this idea.
Yeah.
But I do want to cut out, it's not because he's not woke or something. He has a show that's coming to Disney Plus, the Santa Claus show. Disney doesn't have a problem with Tim Allen. So don't let that narrative keep going. Don't listen to that stupidity, because that's what all it is. It's stupidity. So that's another thing. And I think most people are just like, I don't get why Tim Allen, whether reasons or not, most people just see that trailer and they're like, that's not Tim Allen.
How do you not think of it? Because everyone grew up with it.
Yeah.
And then even in this movie, like you said, we're not doing the spoiler thing. So in this movie, you know, we all know that Zurg is Buzz's dad from Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
And then so Buzz, you know, he thinks it's his father coming out of Zurg, but it's himself from the future, which makes no sense.
We'll get into it.
Voiced by
later.
James Brolin, and it's like that's when you don't use Tim Allen.
Yeah,
like if you're not going to use him and do Chris Evans because I don't know, he's younger or something. Okay, dumb choice, but I kind of see it a little bit. This is like you have an older person though, and you're not going to use Tim Allen. That's weird.
It's so weird. And then here's what's also funny. When I started this, you know, I wrote in Lightyear so I could get my list of things and start taking notes. And you know how there will be questions about a movie, like you know, when Doctor Strange comes out, I write Doctor Strange, and a question might say like,
oh yeah,
you know, is Patrick Stewart really in Doctor Strange or something like that? You know, there's all these questions, and these are the questions that popped up on Google. Number 1, why is Tim Allen not voicing Buzz Lightyear? Number 2, is Lightyear related to Toy Story? Number 3, what is Lightyear about? Number 4, is Lightyear going to be on Disney Plus?
So good.
All of those things, confusion. Mm-hmm. And then, on top of all of that, there's a same-sex kiss in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Disney cut it, and then they put it back in, and then now it's like censored in a ton of countries. It's rated NC-16 in Singapore. Yeah.
Okay.
Which honestly...
So censored, though, doesn't mean that they're not showing the movie. They're just cutting it out.
Oh, you're probably right. I'm actually unclear of that.
Yeah. I'm sure there are people who...
I'm sure like the stricter countries are probably like won't even show it. But it's kind when you watch the movie, it's like, you're going to cause a fuss over this? That's actually actively embarrassing.
Yeah.
That you would be offended by this.
Yeah.
So all of this is just like, there's nothing for Lightyear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then on top of that, you add that I think this is potentially the worst Pixar movie. I would put him at least in the bottom 4, right around the Cars movies. And then this movie commits the greatest sin that a kids movie can make. And what is that sin, Jordan?
Oh, I don't know.
It's being boring.
Oh, yeah.
If you make a blockbuster kids movie boring, that is literally the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
About 20 minutes in, I was like, this is going to be a long 2 hours.
I know.
And the movie genuinely felt like it was a 240.
And can we just get to this now? Someone again brought their baby to the movie.
Yeah, they did.
And they were sitting right next to us. And the baby was goo-goo and gawing the whole time. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. I know it's like middle of the summer on a Sunday. You probably don't have anything to do. Don't bring your 6-month-old to a movie.
We went at 1:45. It was beautiful outside.
Yeah. It was not very hot that day.
No.
Be outside with your baby. Or just don't take your don't take your babies to movie theaters. You're not fully watching the movie.
Yeah.
It just feels like a waste of money.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was so mad. I was so mad. Because there were other kids in the movie, and they were hilarious and cute and great. Like I said.
Yeah.
They were great.
Yeah. No, I think your point that you made when you said seeing Pixar with kids is always fun is actually proven in this movie. Yeah. It's that someone brought a baby.
Yeah, the baby of it all.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it drove me nuts.
What was it at the beginning of the movie? Something happened, and a kid in the back was like, "Whoa!"
I know. Well, I kind of at the beginning of the movie, he was just asking a lot of questions loudly, and it's like, and then he stopped, and it's like, okay, whoever took this kid to the movie was like, "Shut up."
Yeah. Yeah. I thought though that since it was a Sunday afternoon. And the movie had been out this was its third weekend, and no one has seen it. We were in a smaller
theater.
Yeah, I thought, like, no one's going to be here. But people were there still.
Yeah.
But, so, I want to talk about the Chris Evans of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about this. We walked. So, here's another joke about the movie. 2 great things happened in our experience yesterday. The first one, we walked to the theater, and it was really nice. Then we saw the movie, and then we walked home, and that was really nice. And the walk home and the walk there were the 2 great things about Lightyear.
Okay.
But we were talking about, I am a Chris Evans fan. I like Chris Evans. But he has played Captain America. I think he's perfect as Captain America. I love his performance. You have to play it so straight, you know. But it kind of only works if you're Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris Evans, great looking guy, great actor, but he is a little, if he doesn't have a little edge to him, he's either Captain America or boring.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this movie, it's one of the most boring voiceover performances I've heard in a lot of years.
I don't even really have anything to say about it, you know?
It's like, I could have done this fine. With no notes.
Yeah.
It's just especially because Tim Allen is a comedian. He has like some grit in his voice. It's a very fun vocal performance. And Tom Hanks as well. And it is just like, I really think that studios need to take a step back and stop just finding like the A-list actor and casting them in voiceover roles. If they're not going to bring something to the table, they shouldn't be doing it, because a kid doesn't care if Brad Pitt is voicing a hamster in a movie or something. They don't care about that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be something. And as we were getting there, there's another person who I think is going to start being potentially on a list. Potentially. He might start getting on notice for me, maybe. And we were watching a trailer for The League of Super Pets. And John Krasinski is Superman in that movie. And I'm just like, why are you hiring John Krasinski to do voice acting? He's just like playing a Jim without charm as Superman.
Pretty much exactly the same as Chris Evans.
Yeah, it's the same thing where it's like, these are not their strengths.
Yeah.
I mean, again, Chris Evans, it works perfect as Captain America, but that's like a one thing. That's the only thing it works for.
It's just it was the safe choice.
Yeah.
But funny enough, it was also the most expensive choice. Surely.
Yeah. It's just weird. It's weird because, like, you know, his first major role after Endgame was Knives Out. And that was perfect casting because you just got off of seeing him be this honest guy. And then he's this deceiving, swearing, smarmy guy that you don't really know what's going on. Great sweaters. And that's the power of Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Or when he's parodying himself, like in Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a detrimental choice for this movie.
Mm.
Keke Palmer is innocent, though. She was great. Mm-hmm. She's got a great voice. But yeah, voice actors need jobs too, not the people who already make $100 million a year.
Well, there is a fun thing about that. So I don't think we've covered Keke Palmer, but she is going to be in Nope, Jordan Peele's new movie coming out pretty soon.
Yeah.
Very excited to see her in that. But she's in a ton of stuff. As a kid, she's in The Proud Family. Oh, no, that's more recent. But she's in The Proud Family. The cartoon is from my childhood.
Okay.
But she's also been in Hustlers, Alice. She's done some voice acting on Human Resources and Big Mouth. She's in Hit Job. She's done a ton of stuff as a kid and has kind of always done stuff.
Oh, okay.
Looks like she's also in The Scream Show.
Oh, okay.
She's like our age. I always thought that she was older.
When was she born? What year?
1993.
Whoa.
But yeah, I actually need to know this, so I'm gonna look it up.
Okay.
But what was my thing with her back then? Law and Order, but so is everyone. Jump In. I probably have seen that movie, a Disney movie.
Is that the Jump Rope movie?
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's in some Nickelodeon stuff. She's in Degrassi, although I did not watch that. But yeah, she's in Ice Age too. Ice Age Continental Drift. Anyway, I just needed to go on that little journey. But Peter Sohn plays Socks. He has done so much voice. He's like a Pixar voice actor.
Okay, thank you.
But he also is a Pixar storyboard artist.
Great.
So he has for art department 9 credits, and he has 8 credits in animation departments. And he directed The Good Dinosaur.
Okay.
It looks like he's directing the upcoming Elemental Pixar movie, which I've seen a picture of and it looks really good.
Yeah.
So he is a Pixar guy.
Yeah. What is his name again? Peter
Sohn.
Peter Sohn.
Or Sohn. S-O-H-N.
I mean, here's one thing we're not going to criticize in this movie, and it's Socks.
Yeah.
Socks is where it's at.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
And we all knew that when you see whatever that character is going to be in the movie, you know it's going to be the best one.
Yeah. When I saw him in the trailers turning his head around going beep boop beep boop beep boop, I was like, okay, he's going to be cool.
Yeah. And then Dale Souls plays Darby Steele. She is in the Orange is the New Black.
Who's Darby Steele?
The old person.
Oh, the convict.
Yeah, the messenger. My Love Affair with Marriage. A lot of TV stuff. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And then James Brolin plays Zurg.
Yeah.
He is he's Josh Brolin's dad. He is in the original Westworld.
And he's in Amityville Horror.
He is. As well as Traffic, an episode of Community.
I don't remember that.
He's Jeff's dad.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah. And then
so before you leave him, I just found this funny. And I already told you this, but for the audience, I read that James Brolin hadn't seen any Toy Story movies, which is kind of crazy. But he is older, so.
And his son is older.
Yeah, so it's he didn't see the movies, and they offered him this role, and he's just I just know that the reputation of Pixar is good, so yes, I'll take the role. And he takes it, and then apparently, so keeping that in mind, Chris Evans, when he met him, was like, "Sorry, I beat up your son," talking about Thanos. Mm-hmm. And I'm just sure that's a cute story, but I'm sure James Brolin was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Avengers, what?
I wonder if he has more than one son too, and he's like, "Which one?"
Yeah. He's like, you said his name is Than? What?
Yeah.
What is this that you're talking about? Infinity? What?
Yeah, definitely. And then Uzo Aduba plays Alicia Hawthorne. She is also in Orange is the New Black, as well as Mrs. America, My Little Pony, the movie.
Oh, wow.
In Treatment, Solos, a lot of stuff. Steven Universe. And then Taika, of course, we've talked about Taika Waititi.
And we're going to talk about him next week.
We're going to talk about him next week. But I don't think we've talked about him as an actor.
Okay.
Because he is a director. He directed the Ragnarok, and then the upcoming Thor movie. He does a lot of directing, but he does a lot of acting too.
Yeah.
He is. Well, no, we have covered him because he's in the Thor movies.
Yeah.
The Ragnarok.
Yeah.
So we have talked about him as an actor.
We have, yeah.
But yeah, there's really nothing bad to say about him.
A real fun performance by him is his movie Boy. He's in that movie, and he directed that movie, and he's really good.
Is that the one that I watched?
I'm not sure.
Where he's the dad?
I think so.
Yeah,
and he does the Michael Jackson Thriller video.
Movie's really cute.
Yeah, it's a good one. I really like his directing stuff, but I've seen all of his movies, and Thor is definitely his worst movie. Or I like it better than one other movie. So, I mean, if you like Thor Ragnarok, you should definitely check out his previous movies because they're all
Number
better.
One with a Bullet, What We Do in the Shadows.
Number One with a Bullet.
One of the funniest movies ever.
Yeah. But Boy is
really
great.
funny show.
Hunt for the Wilder People is great.
I haven't seen that one.
Shark versus Volcano, or I can't remember what it's called. That one I liked a little less than Ragnarok, but it's still good. It's Jermaine Clement and
Oh, I've seen you watch that movie. You watched that on a plane.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
On my phone too.
Oh, that's right.
Maybe that's actually, if I watched it not on my phone, I probably would like it a lot more.
In a plane that's really loud? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so actually Thor is probably his worst movie, which is not a bad movie.
No.
I'm just saying,
yeah,
if you like that, there's more where that came from.
Mm-hmm.
And
and he was in Suicide Squad.
Right, yes, so we definitely have covered it. I mean, he's kind of like, everybody loves Taika.
Yeah.
That's Taika. Is that all your cast?
Pretty much.
Okay. The movie's
the guy that plays the like commander guy.
Yeah.
Isaiah Whitlock Jr., who was into Five Bloods.
Yeah, okay.
Cedar Rapids. That guy was doing something.
Oh yeah.
That guy was good.
He's good. So Angus MacLean is the director, and he's the co-director on Finding Dory, which is also a weaker Pixar movie.
Yeah.
And he,
he's got a cool name though.
All of these people that we're talking about, Pixar is very much like you work on a bunch of projects.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm just hitting a couple of them. The screenplay is by Angus and Jason Headley, who did the screenplay for Onward. And he's actually not a Pixar guy. But now it looks like he's becoming one. And then the story is Angus, Jason, and then also Matthew Aldrich, who wrote one of the writers on Coco.
I saw that Peter Docter.
One of the writers on Coco.
Okay. I saw that Peter Docter was Pete Docter was an executive producer.
Yeah.
Is that guy, wasn't there stuff about him?
No, you're thinking of John Lasseter.
John Lasseter.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
And by what I can tell, I haven't actually confirmed this, but it sort of feels like Pete Docter has kind of become the John Lasseter now.
Yeah, that's how it feels.
I mean, Pete Docter's been there since the beginning.
Yeah.
So he's always been there, but yeah. Then
you just said the same thing twice.
He's always been there. Let's make it 3 times. Cinematography is by Jeremy Lesky, who did the camera work, Cars 1 through 3, Toy Story 3, WALL-E, Finding Dory. Ian McGibbon did the lighting, Brave, WALL-E, Ratatouille, The Jimmy Neutron Show. The music is by Michael Giacchino. It seems like every single movie we cover this year is scored by him.
Yeah.
Came out June 17th, 2022. And you may not have known this, folks. This movie has a $200 million budget. Now, to put a little frame of reference for you, Top Gun Maverick, with the most A-list of A-list actors, and flying around, Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Flying around in jets, creating cameras for the movie, was $170 million. So that goes to show you how they should not have spent that much money on this movie at all.
There's not much issue with production on this movie?
I didn't find any issues with production.
That sucks.
I don't know where this budget went. I know the animation is expensive, but this movie did not look as good as Turning Red, Luca, Soul. This is like one of their worst looking movies,
well, that's
honestly.
What's interesting is the last few, the last several, every time it's like, I don't know how they can make it better.
Yeah.
And then they make it better. Like the animation is just more creative in different ways. And this one, nothing. Nothing about it was interesting.
Yeah. There is a technology that we will talk about in just a moment. But I agree with you. Actually, this is my last note. It's the first animated feature film in history to have its aspect ratio opened up from the 239:1 to 143:1 for select sequences that are in IMAX. So
that means nothing to me.
If you went to an IMAX theater, this movie, of course, it's technically fake, but they created shots in this movie and sequences that are in the IMAX format, which has never been done in an animated movie. So while that is very cool, it's unfortunate that it's kind of wasted on this movie.
Yeah.
And you may think we're being harsh, folks, but I think we can be extra harsh when they literally make a cash grab movie.
And Pixar, it's a high standard.
A high standard.
And for me, it's always been like Pixar makes like great movies. Like the bottom is great.
Yeah.
You know? And this was not great.
No. Well, and I think so. This would be a good time to remind people, if you haven't, that we're close to 50 patrons, and once we get to 50 patrons, we're gonna launch an extra show only on Patreon called the MPU Goes to Emeryville, because that's where Pixar is located, and in that we're gonna cover the entire history of Pixar. And of course, we've already covered quite a few, but we haven't covered their solo movies, and we haven't covered Cars. So we're saving that, and we would do that all on Patreon. So help us get to 50 so that we can do that. There's a lot to talk about beyond just what we've covered on the main feed. Now, speaking of that, let's do a brief also problem with this movie. We haven't even talked about the actual movie. But you have the pandemic hits when Onward is in theaters. And so they put Onward on Disney Plus. And that felt like, to me, like Disney was being like, you know what? It's a hard thing that's happening. Let's just put this movie out there, give people a little treat. And that felt really cool and nice. And Onward was already not doing well in theaters, but it kind of saved it from having a reputation of a failed Pixar movie. And that movie's okay. I don't know. What do you think of that, since you've...
I think it is still a great movie, but it's like lower for me on Pixar.
Yeah. That one's another one where it's the voice acting thing where I'm like, why'd you hire these two guys as the voice actors? Bad choice. And then they put out Soul, and they do it direct to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Still pretty height of pandemic. That also felt like, let's give you that. And then they put out Luca. Oh yeah, Soul is amazing. They put out Luca straight to Disney Plus.
Great one.
And they had already put Raya and the Last Dragon in theaters and not on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Unless you paid extra.
Yeah.
So that was like, you should have put this in theaters. And then they come out with Turning Red, which when I watched that at home, I was actively angry with Disney that they didn't allow me to see that in theaters.
Yeah, great.
Because that is one of my favorites, I would say, of Pixar. Yeah. And I think that was, just frankly, that was just rude and bad that they took their first woman-directed movie and a movie that's about a lot of stuff that, like, every woman and girl has to go through, and they're like, let's just put it on the streamer. It's like, no, that deserved to be seen in theaters.
Yeah.
So then they have this cash cow.
I would say Luca, too.
Absolutely,
in terms of a spectacle.
Yeah.
I would love to have seen that in theaters.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do agree with you on that. And then they take this cash cow of Lightyear, where it's like, oh, well, we're just going to be like whistling to the bank all day like Mickey Mouse on the steamboat. But it fails. And I do think I think there's potential for us seeing the ending of this iteration of Pixar potentially.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how they're going to be making money.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be surprised if Elementals comes out in theaters. I'll tell you that much now.
Yeah, I know.
Because I also think the CEO of Disney right now, Bob Chapek, is not being very smart. Because he's just prioritizing Disney Plus over everything.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Paramount is just running the table on movies this year. And they're doing much better than Disney is doing. It's like, well.
Probably Top Gun, huh?
It's Top Gun, it's Scream, it's Jackass. I think there's one more. Oh, Sonic.
Oh,
So
that's huge, yeah.
They have lower budget movies that are destroying the box office. And Disney's always like, well, here's another $200 million budget movie. If it doesn't do well, we like go way down this quarter. But at least we put out 12 Star Wars Disney Plus shows. Like, okay. This isn't sustainable.
Asking for it? Question mark?
So that is all of leading up to Lightyear.
Uh-huh.
Now let's jump into the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to take it away since I spoke so much just now?
Well, the movie starts with in 1993, Andy saw the 1995, sorry. I can't get past that. Saw a Buzz Lightyear movie, and it was his favorite movie. This is that movie. Already, I got a little bit of a headache going on with all that. And then I can't remember the opening shot.
Well, it starts with them landing on this planet.
Oh, they're like in cryogenic sleep.
Yeah.
And so they're like exploring. They're like pioneers. They're going to this planet. They're space rangers. They are kind of like going out before everyone else for space exploration to also try and get rid of potential threats.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a funny idea to me these days.
In what way? What do you mean?
That like they're invading other planets to like try and clamp down on a potential threat when there's no threat.
Oh, I'm not following you. Keep going.
Just the way that, especially at the end of the movie, like he's explaining what a space ranger is, and they find, like literally, like the captain's like, there's a potential threat over here. Go explore it and figure out what's going on. Not to say that they're going out there and like killing, like performing genocide, but it's just as a jaded adult these days, it's like, that's interesting.
Like just leave the planet to be.
Yeah, but as a kid, it's like that's so cool.
Yeah,
and I know I am thinking way too much about it. I know that,
but I think that's so. I'll compare this to Cars. Cars is a series that like you can't think about it because it doesn't make any sense. You know, who's driving the cars? How come cars can be inside other cars? You know, it's like, what is this? It's weird.
Well, also though, I think because this movie's so realistic, that's why maybe I think about it when in like Toy Story, it's like, yeah, Zurg is the threat and they're like this is all fabricated.
Exactly.
Which I guess this is fabricated too, but it's so real. Well,
and so as kind of weird and mind-numbing as the Cars movies are, they do understand their target audience, which is our nephew at 2 years old, is Cars.
Who's obsessed with cars.
That is their target audience.
Yeah.
This movie has no idea who it's for. And it is like, okay, let's tell this gritty, realistic story that's kind of like Interstellar and kind of like, you know, a couple other sci-fi movies, but it's not really good sci-fi and it's also not a good kids movie. So yeah, the whole movie I'm sitting there, and I think the other biggest problem this movie makes is there's like no imagination in this movie. What's the craziest thing that happens is these kind of indescript plants come out of the ground and grab people.
And there's bugs.
And that's kind of the most imaginative thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're Pixar. Why are you trying to make this like a realistic planet that could be visited?
Yeah.
Why isn't this like the Strange World trailer where there's, you know, like canyons that have legs that are walking around and floating amoebas that change colors? It's like, no, it's just kind of a dark gray movie where people just walk around and fly a little bit. huh?
Yeah.
What was the, like, what, I guess besides its connection to Lightyear, what is the point of animating this movie?
Well, that's kind of how I feel.
If you're not going to do anything interesting with animation, I can look at photographs from NASA if I want to see something like this.
Yeah.
And actually, those look cooler because they're real.
Yeah.
It's just it's
but
all a mismark.
They get to this planet, they're woken up. It's him and Alicia Hawthorne, and there's a rookie, and she brings the rookie along, and Buzz doesn't like looking into the rookie's eyes because they have sad eyes. They're so desperate. I think that's kind of funny.
That was a funny moment, yeah. Played by Bill Hader.
Yeah. And they get attacked by vines. They have to get off this planet because it's not safe, right? Is that why they're getting off the planet? Oh yeah, the vines are like pulling like the turnip thing like into the planet.
Yeah.
So they got to get the heck out of Dodge.
Yeah.
But it's established that Buzz doesn't like listening to people. He doesn't work well with people.
Yeah.
And him and Alicia butt heads a lot, but they're best buds.
Yeah.
Great. I'm just kind of like, I don't know, I've seen it. So they get back on the ship and they're flying out, but he, again, not listening to people, thinks that he can do everything, damages the ship, and they can't leave it.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be trapped on this planet for basically the rest of time.
Yep. And then, so now he has to try and perform hyper speed travel.
And I think that they do a good job of explaining time dilation. I do. I don't think that it's appropriate for a kids movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like that's too much for a kids movie.
Yeah, I'd be curious to ask what a kid thinks.
Yeah.
But
But also it's kind of like science is cool.
Yeah.
And again, like I think they do a good job of explaining it. It's really simple.
I think it makes sense. It is just a little, like, it's just hard for me to sit there. Like, I understand that stories reuse ideas all the time. That's part of storytelling. But there is a part of me that, like, when they started explaining time dilation, I'm like, how come I'm not watching Interstellar right now instead?
That is how I feel.
Or reading, like, an Ender's book or something. Like, it made me like, this is, like, a not very good version of those things. So I'd rather just watch the thing that's really good.
Yeah.
And this whole story just feels like it's like 15 years too late, because all of these sci-fi ideas have been explored on the screen before.
Yeah. I know it's hard too, because it's like, this is not a Toy Story movie.
No.
But it is, because it is Buzz Lightyear.
Mm-hmm.
But none of it is about the Buzz Lightyear that we know. So it just feels like, this doesn't feel like the right movie.
Yeah.
It just feels off the whole time.
Well, and one thing that I thought was weird, and I almost think it's too, like, nerdy and in the weeds, but I think this movie demands that you think that because it's so serious.
Yeah.
But, like, this whole movie, he's doing a Star Command where he's narrating, and he's doing basically the joke that that the Buzz we know in Toy Story does, where he thinks he's contacting Star Command, and then it's like, dude, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. That's just a sticker.
Mm-hmm.
So this Buzz is doing the same thing, and they make it clear in the first scene. Hawthorne is like, oh, you're doing that narrating thing again? And he's like, it helps me think. And they don't make it clear that he's actually making recordings or anything like that. He's just talking to himself. And I just thought, Pixar is just so thoughtful. Why did they not think through that means that the Tim Allen Buzz is not he is just being true to the movie version instead of thinking he is actually in the movie? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a subtle distinction, but I think it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's confounding. This movie's very confounding.
Yeah.
And it's aggravating. But since it is so disconnected from Toy Story, it actually is like, I'm going to forget about this movie in a week.
Yes.
And I'll still remember Toy Story 1 through 4, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't have to even remember that Lightyear exists. I'm never going to watch it again.
Yeah.
So who cares?
Yeah.
But then he attempts to do hyperspace, go into hyperspace, and when he does it, he fails. I do like those rings that are like brakes
Uh-huh.
that he goes through. That's cool.
And it's 4 years every time he does this test because of time dilation.
Yeah.
So he gets back, and Alicia is a little bit older. Because they are trapped on this planet, she met her future wife.
Yeah.
And then he misses out on so much. Like every time he comes back, it's a little bit more of a developed city.
Yeah.
Because they're settling here. And then he is given this cat, this robot cat that's supposed to help him like acclimate to everything that's going on, because every time he comes back, so much has changed. How does he process it? The cat's supposed to help him with that.
Yeah.
And it's something, it's like you get to take care of the cat. It helps you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And the cat is the best character.
Easy.
And then, so yeah, he does this like several times. He comes back. Alicia's married now. Comes back. Alicia is pregnant. Comes back. Alicia and they're grandparents now.
Yeah.
Like it's just, he's doing it so many times. And I think it's been like a week his time.
Yeah.
That he's experienced. But
it's been it's been over 40 years.
I think like 60 years. I think
60.
they say like 62 or something.
Yeah, it takes Socks 62 years to solve the equation.
Yes. And then when he does it and it works, that took 22 years, that one mission.
Yeah.
Because I guess he just traveled faster through like light speed.
Yeah.
And so Alicia's dead. And she never stopped believing in him, though. But now that she's dead, no one really cares what he's trying to do anymore. So it doesn't matter that he cracked it.
Uh-huh.
They've settled here. They've made do. They now have this. They're making this dome that's going to protect them from the elements of this planet. And they're going to be fine.
Yeah, a laser dome.
A laser dome.
And so in this whole thing, there was this montage that kept showing him like seeing Hawthorne getting older.
Yeah.
And this is when I knew I wasn't going to like the movie. Because I was like, this is classic Pixar stuff that I should be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
Like this is Up kind of thing going on here. And I didn't really feel any emotion that whole time.
Me neither.
And that was when I knew, oh, this movie doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a great summary, by the way, Jordan.
Thank you.
He makes it back, and yeah, now the planet is taken over by these robots.
Well, it's not taken. Well, yeah, I guess so. They're trying to infiltrate like the city, though.
Yeah.
And Buzz is like, I'm gonna do the mission again. Oh, sorry, you're right. He comes back. It's been 22 years. The robots have taken over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then he's like captured by Hawthorne's granddaughter. Not captured, but rescued by
Izzy.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were asking a question. Is he?
No.
No. Izzy. And she's with this band of misfits. I like the band of misfits.
Yes.
Again, like everything in this movie, though, it's like there's nothing that really distinguishes them from any other band of misfits.
Yeah, it's not quite unique enough for me, so it doesn't make it like, I don't know. Just didn't find the movie very funny at times.
I think the most unique thing about the band of misfits is Taika Waititi's voice, which is his voice that he was born with. You know what I mean?
I do like the Grady character that I actually never was sure if it was a man or a woman, because I feel like they said he at one point, but it sounded like an old lady.
Okay.
Not like it really matters. But I like that character was like a convict and was on parole.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know. It was fine.
I mean, again, Socks is killing it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure once this movie reaches Disney Plus, there will be someone on YouTube that puts together like every scene with Socks. So you can just watch like 15 minutes of Socks.
Uh-huh.
I mean, really, Socks does kind of take the pain of this movie away.
Yeah. Socks does for Buzz. Socks does for us what he also does for Buzz. Helps him cope.
Yeah.
Helps us cope.
Yeah, it's funny though. I mean, I think they were trying. It's just a misestimation, but I think they were trying really hard to, really set this apart from Toy Story. And it is funny. I like Socks and everything, but you would almost think that they would try to have like the green aliens in this or something. Like
oh yeah. Is that from his? Is that like part of his toy franchise?
I don't think it is actually, but you would think that they would just take or like.
Were there any green aliens in this movie at all?
No,
because isn't that like a Pixar thing?
No, it's the ball and it's the the 1123 or whatever. I don't remember what.
Which I'm sure that was in it, but I don't remember seeing a ball.
And the Pizza Planet truck is in all the movies too.
Yeah, which is probably in it. But yeah,
I like. Even when I know about them, I can like never find those things. I know. So I just am like, I'm sure it's in there.
Yeah.
That they put them
I just thought
the
aliens were always in there too, but they're not.
No.
Okay.
No. But yeah, it just feels like, and I, on the one hand, I respect that they're not trying to just like pander to the audience, but also it's a cash grab. So it's like, you know what? Pander to me.
A little bit. Yeah.
Give me the aliens.
Yeah.
Or something. But I mean, I still think there's a version of this movie, although I don't know how you could crack it because I still think it wouldn't really work. But there is a version of this movie. You get Tim Allen and you tell this whole story, and then at the end of the movie, it's Bonnie and she was playing with toys the whole time.
Yeah.
I think that would have been better, but then at the same time, that's just like the opening of Toy Story 3.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So why what would be the purpose of making it?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a little confounding. So they get together and they're weekend warriors. They go, like do the military on the weekend. They're not.
It's kind of just like
trained.
a life lessons camp.
Yeah.
They're not like real soldiers or anything. But when the whole dome thing happened and when the robots came, they were kind of trapped out here.
Yeah.
But they're like, we have a plan. We're gonna go up to that ship and take it all down.
Yeah.
And Buzz is like, great, let's do it. He's totally on board with it, but quickly realizes that they don't know anything. Because one of the Zurg robots shows up and is taking Buzz away, and none of them can do anything to save him, pretty much.
Yeah. What did you think? This is jumping ahead, but what did you think of the explanation of why they're called Zurg and he's called Zurg?
Dumb. Who cares? A lot of the sound stuff was good in that movie, though.
You know what's funny is I actually thought the exact opposite.
Really?
I took note of it.
I liked it. I liked some of it.
I just kind of felt like it was very. It all sounded like it was just manipulated Star Wars sound effects to me. Micah,
it's a sci-fi movie. Why wouldn't it be?
No, I know, but I've seen Interstellar, and that didn't remind me of Star Wars.
Okay.
It literally felt to me.
We already covered Star Wars. We can't talk about it anymore.
No, it just felt like they went to the Lucasfilm sound library and they were just like, okay, just pitch it down.
Well, they do own it now, so.
I know. None of this movie felt inventive in the way that a Pixar movie feels to me.
Yeah, and I'm bored talking about it.
Sorry. But I'm glad you enjoyed the sound design.
Yeah, thank you. It's the little things.
Well, yeah. I did think that a joke that worked really well is when they get the sandwiches.
Okay.
And they're meat. So in their world, they put bread in between two slices of meat.
Yeah.
And then Buzz is like, what's wrong with the sandwich? Where's the other piece of bread? And they all are like, what? Mm-hmm. If you had too much bread, you'd have no like juice. It'd be all dry. And they laugh at him and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's funny. Mm-hmm. I like meat sandwich jokes.
Okay.
They were in all the right ways. They were kind of gross to look at, the sandwiches.
I know, because whenever they picked it up off like a table, there was like a grease spot.
Oh yeah, and I could like feel it on my fingers.
Gosh, it was gross.
Yeah, I liked.
It limp.
That was socks. Number 1 with a bullet. Number 2, meat sandwich. Number 3, when he does enter hyperspace, I was like, cool. It's 2001, but it's animated. That's fun.
Oh yeah.
But whatever. It is like they didn't really do anything different. It's just the 2001 sequence.
Yeah.
The animation-wise, I do have to give them credit, though, for something that they did. And the reflections on the helmets did blow my mind.
Oh, I didn't really clock it, but it is. But the thing is like, Pixar is so good with animation, I take it all for granted.
Yeah.
The animation was not bad by any stretch of the imagination. No. Because we saw trailers for that Super Pets movie, and the animation looks like it's from 2010.
Yeah.
Like, it looks so bad. So, I mean, I know
2010 called, they want their animation back.
Okay. But the animation still looked good, but Pixar just usually pushes it.
Yeah.
And I did not feel that at all.
No.
None of it felt like an artistic risk was being taken.
Well, and the other biggest problem with this movie is no giant pandas.
Yeah.
No girls turning into giant pandas, which is a huge mistake.
Yeah.
And then no mother turning into huge panda.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a huge mistake on their part.
Yeah.
It was right there.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, so they basically are like trying to do this thing, and all of this kind of meshes together.
But it's boring because they go to so there's a dark side of the planet. Okay. It's just blue and gray.
yeah.
And then they go to this.
I actually didn't clock that it was the dark side because it looked the same as the other side.
Yeah. So then they also go to. What's funny is there was vegetation on that planet because of like the vines, and there were some trees and stuff. But like they always stayed in like the Mars part.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And I got to give you credit. When the trailers for this movie came out, you were like, it doesn't look very exciting aesthetically. And I was like, you got to trust him, Jordan. The one thing that this movie will accomplish, if nothing else, is it will be exciting to look at. Come on.
And I was like, yeah, you're right.
Jordan, you were correct from the get-go. I give you points.
Thank you. But yeah, so then they're in this mining facility. It also just said, I don't care. It's like, yeah, that's sci-fi, I guess.
Yeah.
Everything's made of metal.
Yeah, it just was not imaginative.
They get what they need. Berserk shows up. They are trying to get away. They're fighting some robots, and then Zurg takes Buzz up. They beam themselves up.
Yeah. And it is funny. I saw someone I follow on Letterboxd. Their review of this movie was, this is a great example of why a movie should have a second act. And it is kind of funny because the second act of this movie is just kind of enough. They're just kind of like wandering around, and then like Zurg shows up and takes them.
Yeah, it is very much like nothing is working, like none of their plans.
Yeah.
And at a point, it's pretty frustrating as a viewer.
Yeah.
Where like nothing is working. Like I know all the characters have something to learn, but they're not learning anything in this part
and you're
of the
like,
movie.
let's get this
going. Feels like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And then of course it also feels like nothing matters that they're doing.
And it's just strange because Pixar, we know, I mean, remember Toy Story 2, they scrapped the entire movie 9 months before it was released, and they started over. So to see...
And it's, I think, my favorite one.
It's the best Toy Story movie. Toy Story 2, if I didn't say that. But this movie is just kind of like, there's so many steps along the way that like the Pixar I know and how they develop stories, and they keep on just like chiseling and throwing stuff out. It's confusing that they kept like, this is the draft they landed on. Because you would think that someone would just be like, this whole middle section is kind of boring. It's just confusing to me that happened.
I know. The whole thing. The whole movie. Is it raining?
I can't. It doesn't look like it from my view.
I feel like I'm hearing things.
You probably are. Ooh. So they get on the Zurg ship. Buzz finds out that Zurg is him from the future.
And then they half-ass explain how it's possible.
And it doesn't work because it would imply that Buzz made those decisions creating him. But they never clarify that this is like multi-dimensional. So it doesn't make any sense. And I guess there's a post-credit scene where Zurg survives, so I think they were thinking they're going to make a second movie. They're definitely not now.
Yeah.
No way.
Sorry, Andy. You're not getting a franchise.
Yeah. But, okay, maybe I am, like, stupid. So tell me if I am getting this wrong. But, so they get onto this platform, and
9 3/4.
Hawthorne is doing some business, trying to get stuff done. Buzz is trying to get the fuel cell back and blow up the ship. And after he's like, no, I'm not really like you, they do have this moment where he's like with him, and then he says, we're going to go back in time, and we're going to make sure none of this happened. And then Buzz is like, yeah, but then Hawthorne will have never met her wife, and then all that.
And then these people wouldn't exist. But also, this future Buzz is like, I found this ship that they're currently on, and he just commandeers it? Whose ship is this? Remember, he said he, like, found the ship.
Did he say that?
And there's, like, when he looks at the control board, it's, like, in another, like, alien language. I don't get that part.
Yeah. I did not even register that. I had to just say.
It's not like he didn't, like, make this ship or, like, earn it.
He didn't?
I don't think so.
Oh, my gosh. That's so lazy.
I don't get it.
So all of that, and then our Buzz is like, hey, no, we gotta account for the time. It reminded me of that scene in Endgame when he's like, when Iron Man says, no, we can only go back if we don't lose what we've gained in these 5 years. It's that idea, which again, I'm like, there's a better version of this exact story sitting right there. And then there's also Back to the, like, I could be watching all these other time travel movies that are better. So that's happening. And then Taika and the Convict, I could not figure out what they were doing.
They were trying to create an explosive, which they did, but then, like, unscrew that thing up top so that it would explode the thing. Yeah, pretty weird.
No, so because I'm sure none of you watched the movie. The Zerg bots are coming toward them in a hallway, and there's a countdown. The ship is going to explode. And then the Convict creates a bomb, and Taika's like, what are you doing? Okay, I created this bomb so that it will blow up these robots that are about to get us. And then Taika goes, well, what if they don't step on it? And then they go up into the vents above it, and they spend like 5-10 minutes of this movie unscrewing this like air conditioning unit or something so that it will fall and blow up. And then when they get close, it's not falling, so Taika like presses the button that creates a balloon on his space suit, and then it makes the bomb explode. And then they get up, and then they run back to the platform, and then they leave with everybody. And I was like, so their mission was...
Didn't matter.
What were they doing?
They were trying to make sure to get the door closed, I think.
Is that what they were doing?
I think something like that.
And I'm thinking, if all you had to do was blow up this bubble, like, I guess the bomb doesn't really affect them, so why didn't they just step on it or something? Like, I just didn't... I was confounded by that sequence.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Or why didn't they just take the bomb and throw it at him or something? And they're just walking down that hallway, and you can see their shadows for like 5 minutes. They're just like, Zerg. And, and we didn't mention it. I just asked if Jordan liked it. But the robots call Buzz Lightyear, old Buzz Lightyear, Zerg, because he says, you like how they just don't know how to pronounce my name, so they called me Zerg, and it stuck?
Yep.
Huh?
Yep.
And then...
these robots that he didn't create and follow him for some reason.
Yeah, and then they all escape, and Chris Evans' Buzz, like, flies around with the fuel cell, and he's trying to save everybody.
The Izzy going through space was stressful.
Yeah.
That will always be stressful to me, that kind of stuff. But yeah, he's got the so throughout this movie, it's like, how come he doesn't have the wings yet?
Yeah.
It better be a cool reveal if they haven't shown us yet. And it was a cool reveal.
It was a cool reveal.
And he
uses the eject, and then it gives him the wings, and he's able to power pack around.
Yeah, and he's like trying to help his friends to land safely. That was the whole thing. They land safely.
He blows up the fuel cell to get Zerg away from him.
Yeah.
And then he lands, and he's able to like start his own crew.
Space Rangers.
And so there's no implication at the end of this that they're all going to go home, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But I think they could someday. Because he like destroyed all of Sox's work, so it would take like probably another 60 years to do it again. But
Okay.
I think the whole point though that his character needed to accept that this was it.
Yeah, I was just making sure that they didn't like take that back, because when he blew up
No.
the
fuel
cell, I was like, that's their last hope.
No,
So,
I think he accepted.
Okay,
his
good.
Fate.
I do think they could have like made it more of a moment, so that it like gut punched you, that he accepts like, I did fail these people, but good things have come from my failure.
Yeah, and it's not all about him.
Yeah, but it doesn't really do that.
Yeah.
It is implied though.
Yeah.
He creates a team of space rangers, and then they have the actual spacesuits that Tim Allen Buzz looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that was something that was bugging me the whole movie.
Me too.
Where I was thinking,
and that's something
like,
I also said.
Yeah.
When I saw the trailers, was I just don't feel like I see him in that suit very much. And if he's not in that suit very much in the movie, why did they make a toy?
Exactly. And so it's like, so this toy was based on the last suit in the movie.
Well,
that
they're
he
kind
never
of
wears.
wearing that suit.
I know. It's
earlier,
just,
but I know what you mean.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It was really bad, guys. Which is really a bummer. I never want to dislike a Pixar movie, but
I'm never watching that again.
No. I think we did it.
I think so. How short is this episode?
It's nice and short. It's nice and short. I mean, this is like old school Macabre Podcast universe. We get in, we talk about it, we get out.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's what you got to do, especially when a movie tests you like this.
Instead of watching this movie, I would encourage people to watch PK that's currently on Netflix. Micah and I our journey through Bollywood continues.
Bollywood and Tollywood. Yeah.
And we watched PK, which is in Amir, I can't remember his last name.
Amir Khan,
which he is Mr. Bollywood. And it is a very strangely charming movie.
Yeah.
And it was fun, and I really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it too.
Didn't really make sense, but it was great.
Of the 5 like Indian movies we've watched recently, that was my least favorite.
But it was still pretty wonderful.
Yeah. I'm all about RRR, and then if you like RRR, you gotta watch the Bahubali movies, 1 and 2, which freaking rule. And the second one,
and I think about often.
Yeah, the second Bahubali movie was, as far as like characters and themes, I was like, this freaking rules.
Yeah.
And then 3 Idiots was crazy.
It was cuckoo bananas.
It really was. It's cool though, because it seems like something we've been noticing, and of course we are in no way experts because we've watched 5 Indian movies. But it seems like a lot of their movies are just really long.
Everyone that we've seen has your main present day, whatever is happening story.
Yeah.
But like 30 to an hour in, there's a flashback, and like that's the real movie, is the flashback.
Yeah, and that flashback will be like at least an hour long.
Yeah, and then by the last 30 minutes, you get back to the present day, what's happening, and your mind is blown.
At the connections and like why people are the way that they are. And then they finish whatever they need to finish, and you're like tearing up over it. Yeah.
Crazy.
And there's this weird like earnestness that it just isn't in American movies.
Yeah.
And I think what's cool is, I mean, some of these movies, there is stuff in it that we laugh at.
Yeah.
Not with. That happens. Not RRR. RRR is just a 100% banger. But there is stuff that's like, why did they decide to do that shot? It's crazy. Or this guy is acting so weird. But I think because the movies are so long and they're so decided in their tone.
Yeah.
That at about an hour into it, well, even before I get hooked, but like an hour into it, you are so invested in what's happening that no matter how cheesy it is or weird, you're kind of like,
I am along for the ride.
That's the world that they created, and I'm in it.
If anything, of the movies that we have seen, the director, whatever, like they know what they're doing.
Absolutely. And some of these, like, it has really made me, again, it's only 5 and we're sounding like crazy, but it has made me sad that because of America just like Western society, there's such an emphasis on like science and reason, and there's such an emphasis on like things need to be realistic. Case in point, Lightyear. A cartoon movie needs to be realistic. And I long for a day when an American filmmaker can make a Marvel movie. I will say a Marvel movie that is bombastic, like a Thor movie, is bombastic, crazy, and doesn't have him turn to the camera and be like, man, this hammer sure makes my butt look big. Or some stupid thing that's like, yeah, we all know this is stupid, that Thor is dumb. It's like, actually, Thor's pretty cool. He doesn't have to wink at the camera all the time. And it's great for Guardians. Guardians got to wink. But we don't need every Marvel or every superhero to wink. Sometimes they can be like, hey, you know what? I'm Superman, and I stand for the truth and the American way, and I am justice. And he can be earnest. I long for the day when earnestness comes back into American cinemas.
You know, I do feel like DC is a lot more earnest than Marvel.
They are. I think you're right, actually.
I never really realized until now, and I am finding myself appreciate it. But they also, time and time again, mistake the earnestness for gritty realism. You
absolutely just took a nail and put it in the coffin of the DC universe. Because you're right.
Yeah.
Because Zack Snyder is a very earnest filmmaker.
He really is. Because 300 is pretty earnest, too.
You know what? Yeah, I guess Zack Snyder is doing that. So I got to give him credit.
I don't think he's doing a good job.
No, but that is what I asked for.
Yeah.
And, you know, if anything, his movies that he has directed in the DC movie, they are much the same way that a lot of these Indian movies that we're watching. It is like he knows what tone he is doing. He knows what story he's telling.
It just happens to be boring most of the time.
Exactly. But it is like you watch the Justice League Snyder cut and you're like, this is an artist who is making a vision. I don't like the vision. I'm bored of this vision. I don't need to see Ezra in any movie ever again. But, you know.
You're obsessed.
Zack Snyder?
No, Ezra Miller.
It's just so fascinating what's happening right now. But I do feel very bad.
Yeah. You got your finger on the pulse.
Yeah. Are we going to end on that note?
Maybe just rewatch a Toy Story movie instead of watching this movie.
And watch RRR, Bahubali 1, the beginning, Bahubali 2, the conclusion, 3 Idiots, and PK. And we're going to watch Like Stars on Earth soon. And all these movies are on Netflix.
That's the one with the kid?
Yeah.
I thought we were watching the Cricket one.
Oh, and we got to watch the Cricket one, yeah. But we do need to watch another movie by the director who did RRR, or another movie with one of those actors.
Yeah, that's true.
So I want to see those guys in some more stuff. It's a whole new... This is what I love is when there's like a whole section of the world that you and I have not watched movies from that section, and then you start watching them and it's like, it's truly like a different style of storytelling.
Well, that is like before that it was like Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah.
And
we were watching a lot of South Korean
movies.
Yeah.
And like really, really enjoying all of that. And it's like this year we're watching a lot of Indian movies.
Yeah.
Next year, who knows?
We might have to head back to Japan soon because I think I need to drive my car again and watch some Studio Ghibli.
Yeah.
Feeling that need soon.
Yeah.
But thanks for listening, everyone. Next week, we will be covering Thor: Love and Thunder. Yes. And I got high hopes, even though I just said that jokey stuff about Thor. I'm very excited.
They got Mr. Bale, and he looks like machinist level weird.
And we saw a new trailer, and there's ginormous goats. And I thought, this is what I want out of a Thor movie. I want to see goats that are huge.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next week. Sign up for our Patreon, please. Only 3. Please. Can we get to 50, please? Please.
I'm literally on my knees.
Please. See ya.